I am just a few minutes early, and it's good to be back to my live. I'm gonna just wait a few minutes to see if anybody would join me. And I just decided to do these kind of like on the spur of the moment. I just thought about making this, and I'll show you in a minute. I just wanted to see who will join me today for another tutorial. I can tell you that it's going to be a sculpting painting workshop, which I've already started, so it wouldn't be so long. Hi, Beth. Yay. Someone is here, so I'm not talking to myself. Yeah, I decided to make something this morning that's not my usual. Good morning. And I'll show you here in a moment. We're only 3 minutes away. So I've been sculpting for my next workshop, which is going to be at the end of March 28th and 29th. So I have pieces to show, some examples of the sculptures that I make, which they're small. But usually, as you've seen, some of my work is attaching the sculptures to pieces to make them functional. So that's usually what I make. I have done some pieces that were strictly sculptures, like birds and different things like that, that were just sculptures. And that's something different. I use a different clay for that. But for the functional work, we use just regular stoneware. I have also used porcelain. Porcelain is much harder because not only porcelain cracks, you have to dry it really, really slowly, and to avoid the cracks, especially if you're joining two pieces together. Sculpture, which is hollow, there is always the thing that you have to keep in mind to have the thicknesses about the same so you don't have the cracking issue. But I do also work with porcelain, but it is harder, especially if you're starting. I don't suggest, starting the sculpting with porcelain. It's best to have something like a clay that has some grog in it. That's always the best for if you're starting out. And I'm still finding out some clays that I'm using right now. This one in particular that I'm going to show you is the speckled bee mix. And I believe that clay has some fine grog, which helps for any sculpting. It's not what I thought it would be. Like the last time I did something that was hand built. If you guys have seen it, I made a leaf that was like an egg dish. And I used this clay for the first time for hand building. And contrary to what I thought, it's a really good clay for hand building. And it didn't have any cracking issues, anything like that. So I started using the one that I really like for small things is the Iceman by Kentucky Mud Works. It's a really good clay for hand building. I do more sculpting, but I also like hand building, but my main work is on the wheel. But for you guys that do a lot of the hand building, Iceman is what I suggest. So I think I'm gonna start. And I will zoom in as always to show you, but this is what I've been doing. This is a it's gonna be either a sunset or sunrise sea turtle, and I'm gonna attach her on a bowl. And usually I do more realistic stuff, like if I make sea turtles, I make them try to have a picture in front of me, and I try to just use all the colors that from a sea turtle. And it takes me quite a bit of time to try to really replicate all the colors of a sea turtle. So I usually just work looking at a picture. With this one this morning, I just decided, because I had seen, I don't know if it was maybe on Pinterest, some illustrations of sea turtles that had, I don't know if you guys have seen it. Some have like a wave inside or a flower, very kind of like Hawaiian style. So I saw that and that just kind of clicked in my mind to make something like that, you know, just looking at the illustration. So, hi Marisa. So that's what came to mind. It was to make like a scene, like a beach scene on the shell of the sea turtle. And I just sculpted, put some flowers in there. Very easy to make. So I'm gonna zoom in and show you, even though I already made the parts, but they're not attached. And I'm gonna make the bottom. So let me bring you a little closer and I'm going to zoom in here. I may not be able to see some of the comments that sometimes I'm using my phone. It's a little harder. Good morning. Let me see if you, tell me if you guys can see okay. So all this is, I just did it real fast this morning. I have the shell, the head, as you see, they're not really attached. I just put it, you know, the flappers, the back. But you're gonna see that the way I make, so I'm gonna put her on the side here. All the parts are unattached. And so it's fairly simple to make. I just already had some scrap pieces. The visual is great. Oh, that's good. I never know, sometimes I have the little light that has on my phone holder. I don't know if it's better with the light. Sometimes it puts like glare on pieces, but since this is just clay, raw clay, you know, I don't have that issue. I don't know if you guys saw my little video last time. I did a video just to show tricks and tips that I do for sculpting. You can do sculpting from slabs. You can do it from a solid piece and then carve it out. For the sea turtle, I do the shell and then I do the undershell. So you create like a pocket. Actually, this is kind of big. And the thickness is about not quite 1/8 of an inch, maybe, and not quite 1/4 of an inch, I think would be too thick. So close to 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, I think I have it. A lot of times I already have the pieces here, but this time it was just an idea that popped in my mind and I decided that's what I was gonna do today. So pretty much this is what it is underneath. So I'm gonna cut it, and I use my heating gun just to dry out a little bit, and I started painting just to give you guys a little idea what this is going to be or how it's going to look like. And I'm gonna cut it a little bigger. So the shell, the sea turtle shell, is almost like a heart shape. And then you do a little indent here for the head, where the head is gonna be. Oops. And another thing I was thinking as I was making this, you could paint the background. You saw, I don't know if you guys can see, I put a little coconut tree But then I was thinking maybe I could have done that after I paint the whole background, and then I can attach my things, whatever you want to attach, flowers or, whatever. It might have been a little better, but I think I can still do it because I'm going to try to do some graffito towards the end. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Sometimes I can't. It's hard to see your comments. I'm trying. Let me see, where's my... So I usually just wet it a little bit. A lot of times if I want something curved, just like for birds and flowers, I just put it on my hand and start pushing to form that shape, the concave shape. I might have to take out a little bit here on the sides. But anyways, this would be the underside. But that's pretty much how I made the top shell. And then you just attach them together to make a pocket. And then we'll tweak where the flappers are gonna go, and the head I just carve a little bit more. But let me just get this done here and then I'll show you. Let's see. The back is just a little bit smaller. I don't usually work with patterns. I just kind of do it on the fly here. You can certainly create a pattern, for your pieces. During the class, my workshop, I have done a pattern that I will pass to my students to make it a little easier. And then that's just something that comes with some practice and muscle memory, I guess. So even though the top might be a little more dry than this piece here, but I think it's still doable to do it right now. Ideally you want your pieces to be about the same dry, stage. Because I was using the heating gun, so these dried out a little bit more. But this clay is very forgiving. I'm new to this clay. I have used Iceman a little longer, but I was gonna say, I do like some speckled clay bodies, and I was trying to find one that was a light, so this is more like a creamy color. I do like the buff clay, and one that I was using that I liked at first and then I didn't like because of what happened was the Dark Star. One time I fired to a cone, I think it was close to a cone 6, and it just did that bloating that happens sometimes with that speckled clay bodies. This one, I haven't had that problem yet. And anyways, that's why I stopped using the Dark Star. Let me see here what you guys have anything. Look at that. Okay, I'm just trying to see if you guys have any questions while I'm talking away here. Didn't want to miss anything. So yeah, this here on my last video for my tips and tricks, that's something I use. Just a little piece of scrap wood that I save when I do any projects around the house, and then I use that for just to use my small roller for slab building. I do the same thing for my little flowers that I make, leaves. I try not to use, that's just my preference. I don't like using molds. Although I have used it before, but I have, I guess, joy of making things just by hand. One thing that a lot of people ask me is, all my sculptures don't have any holes for vent. And I don't have any problems firing. I know that when we all learn, they always say you have to make a hole for vent, you know, or your pieces will explode, and that's a myth. What makes your pieces explode, I'm just putting a little piece of clay here because it was an opening there. What makes your pieces explode in the kiln is really any moisture on the clay. That's what makes it explode. So as long as your piece is bone dry, you won't have any problems exploding. Okay. So I usually do the two-sided for the turtle, almost like a pocket like that, so you can see. And then you can tap it a little bit to make it where you're going to attach, to make it a little flat. So if I'm going to attach it on a bowl, depending on the shape, right, it might be more, you might have to curve these a little more. But right before I attach, I open here, I make a little hole. So let's say if this would go on a mug. Let's see if I have an example here. This is a cup I have. I'm drinking something here. So if I would attach this, which is kind of big for going on a mug, it has to be a little bit smaller. But what I do is, because of the shape, as you see, the round shape, I open the hole where it has that shape like that. So it goes really well on, it fits that curve. So that's one of the things you need to think about wherever you're going to attach this. So right now I'm just tapping. So for the head, as you guys know, it's just a little, this shape here. That's the, let's see if I can. So the sea turtles have a little overbite. If you look closely, their mouth almost has a little beak. And then what I usually do here, and I can show that later when I do the carving and the sgraffito, I add just a tip here for the eyes. When you create this shape here for the head, they have some wrinkles around the eyes, so all you do is you go create some wrinkles, you know, like that around the eyes, which I haven't done it yet. All I did is I created the basic shape. But this adds depth to when you paint. I'm gonna paint it with underglazes, and then you can do all the little, you know, the little shapes they have on their skin. You guys can see it. I don't know if I'm being close enough to show. But this here is a sgraffito tool from Diamond Core. You want to wait until it's a little bit more dry than what it is right now, because you can see how the clay sticks a little bit. So whenever you do carving, you want to wait until it's the right carving stage, because, you know, if you carve now, just like I'm doing here, you see how I end up with a lot of pieces stuck to the clay still. So you want to do it when it's a little bit drier. But anyways, I'm gonna do this everywhere in here, just creating that pattern that they have on their skin. Same thing with their flappers. You know, I create this using this sgraffito tool. This is from Diamond Core. It is great. It is a great tool. You can also use anything that comes to a point, you know, any carving tool to go around. But like I said, it's best to do it when it's a little bit more dry. So for the head, it already had that indent there, but I am going to score. And it's pretty much just scoring and attaching all the pieces. Like I said, with all my sculptures, you do it in sections, and then you attach all the arms, and that's the same principle that I use for birds, my chameleons. The body is one piece, then the legs, the arms, the tail, you know, and then it all comes together. And I try not to leave any gaps, because if this is going to be, if this is going to be on a piece that is functional, I don't want to keep any holes, so that the piece can be washed. You know, you don't have to worry about any water getting in. That's also part of the reason why I don't leave any holes. Now, if I'm making a bird bath or something that I put a turtle or anything that you want to put a hole, you can. I just don't see the need. So far, I never put any holes, and I never have any, you know, problems. So, and then towards the end, it's just a matter of cleaning up, doing some more finesse work. Let me see here if you guys have any questions. Are you asking the clay? The clay that I use here is the Speckled Bee Mix by Laguna. It's a good clay for hand building. So let's see here. The flappers go, usually they go pretty close to the front, like towards here. So I'm gonna, yeah, I guess just a little indent would be enough, so I know where it's gonna go. Like, another question I get asked a lot is when people ask me, how do I keep everything symmetrical? The best way to do that, let's say if you're putting the eyes on a bird or like in a turtle, the best way is to look straight on, right in the center. And then you can see, you know, where the eyes are gonna go. You can see if they're in the same level this way, horizontally. And then you can look at from the top to see if they're symmetrical this way. So I do that a lot. I look straight on. I know you guys can't see it, but yeah, it's like looking straight on, and you can sort of see where it's gonna go. So here and here are, I guess, where the flappers are gonna go. And then I look from the top to see if that matches. And they go towards, they're kind of curved that way. So towards the back, they have a little curve. So I'm gonna wet them a little bit. It's getting a little bit more dry than I want to. So now I'm just gonna make a little hole there where it's gonna go. Same thing here. And because it's pretty wet, the clay, I don't think I'll have any issues here attaching. And then now this is a little bit more dry. I am going to score. Oops. Also, I don't use slip. If the clay is good for sculpting, most of the time you don't even need slip. I use just straight water and scoring. That's it. unless you're using a clay that is very finicky, like porcelain, then you might want to use a little vinegar to help attach, but usually I don't. Let's see which side. Yeah, I think this is the side. So, and you can make it so one flapper is more towards that way, one can be more down, you know. They don't have to be all in the same direction here. You can use any tool that your fingers cannot reach. Any wooden sculpting tools. I've told my students to get these very inexpensive tools. It does the same thing. So you really don't need to buy the expensive sculpting tools for beginners. These are fine and I still use them. So this is the other one. So since it's bent a little bit towards the back, maybe I'll put this one more like this and that one, or maybe like that. Yeah, I just didn't want to have them in the same direction to kind of look like she's swimming, the turtle. And create a nice joint here. No holes. Then the same thing with the feet on the back. Again, they're usually pretty close to the back like that. So I'm just gonna mark where they're gonna go. I think she's gonna be cute. Let me see. Yeah, they're like that. Yeah. They're drying pretty fast because my heating is right here above me. It's amazing how it dries quick. So, and I'll try to show, I have a video showing where I'm going to attach this turtle so you guys will see the finished product here. So here's the other flapper. I mean, I don't know what they call. I'm calling feet the turtle. So that's pretty much my turtle here. She has some flowers. She's cute. When you attach, what I usually do, you see how everything is kind of up in the air? Let me see if you can see. So at the time of attachment to something, you're going to, like I said, you're going to open here and then score so that this area here will be the attachment point. But also what I do, I bend these slightly, the flappers you see here, so that these are not just hanging, you know, out with no attachment. I like to, everything that I make, I always think of how can I make it something that is stronger, that's going to last, that people are not gonna hit something and just break off the flappers, you know. Those are the things you have to think when you're making something functional. At least that's how I do it. Everything that I tell you is the way I do it. Maybe it's my engineering mind. I always think of a way that something is going to last long. And because of that, I want to make something, you know, that it's attached well. So these would be my attachment points. I bend the feet a little bit. So maybe I squish it a little bit so the feet will touch the clay. What else? I guess the head is okay because it's stronger and, you know, wider. So I don't think these would break off easily. But certainly these, that's something that I teach during my class a lot, is how I make you think on a lot of things, right? When you're making something, and that is just part of my reputation, I guess, with my pieces. I don't want someone to have a piece that is just gonna break, or because something wasn't attached well, or, you know. So I think a lot of that on how well something is going to be attached to make it functional, not just a decoration piece. And so I guess it's still, I like to paint when it's bone dry, but let's just have like a visual here what the sunset is going to look like. So, or did I say sunrise? I did take a look at some pictures right before this video, but I usually, when I'm not making a video like this, I usually have, let me show you, this nice handy tool here. I don't know if you guys have one. I think it's a must. You put your phone here, you put your phone where it never shuts down, so you have your picture up, and I'm looking at the picture while I'm making something, so I know the colors that I use, so very handy to have. I did put a link of this on my last video for the tips. It's something that I'm gonna tell my students to get, because it's not just for sculpting, it's for painting. It can be for, you know, any kind of work that you're doing. If you're looking at any reference picture, that's the way to do it. So I'm gonna start going with a yellow here, because it is the sunrise. I thought about the sunset, but, and just for you guys to have a visual, it's not the ideal here, because I think I might wait until it's more dry. So the painting is just gonna be done here on the front. The back, I'm gonna use the turtle colors like browns and, you know, maybe some purples where the shadows, where I want it to be more shadow. I'm using a light yellow and a darker, kind of like a orangey yellow color underglaze. These are kiwi underglazes that I'm using. They are great underglazes. I'm hooked. I'm hooked on kiwi. And they do have distributors here in the U.S. The closest one for me, which I haven't bought it yet because they send it to me for me to try, but I am going to end up buying more. So I already, a friend of mine sent me Diana Innocent. She's also one of the admins for the Dark Clay Bodies, our Facebook group. If you guys want to join. Anyway, she told me, because she got some, she bought it from, I don't know if she said she bought it from AnasClayHouse, but AnasClayHouse, I believe they're in Tennessee. They're the ones that carry, they're the ones that carry the kiwi underglazes. Actually, you know what? Maybe here I'm gonna go back to using some blue, like sky blue, mixing in with the yellow, because I didn't want it all yellow. I got distracted here talking. And I could just go over the tree here, because then the tree has a darker green. It's just gonna, you won't see that I'm painting over. Once I paint the tree, yeah, it will be okay just painting over the tree just because of the colors that I'm using. So I'm just using a little kind of turquoise blue for the sky. And I didn't want to just kind of blend. I'm going to use some of the white right here in the middle. Clean my brush here. So I'm using the white with just a little bit of yellow, just because the middle is the brighter sun. And then I'm gonna kind of, you guys, this is just a one coat thing that I'm doing now, just for us to have an idea. What I'm gonna do is wait until this dries and then go back with a second coat. This is really just for you guys to have an idea. Here, I can either use that sandstone, which is a real nice glaze. If you glaze in a piece, I've done it, the beach combo, where I use the sandstone and then I use some blues and greens coming to that. So it's like the sand and then the sea. So that gives like a real nice effect for the sand. Just making some reflections here in the water. And then you can blend in that way. And you can blend in this way. So just kind of making that gradient with the yellow. Some pictures I saw, they had yellow, a little darker yellow, and then even like pinks. I didn't want to use pink because I'm using that on the flowers, so I'm just gonna use the light blue here on the top. And then for the tree, I'm gonna use some browns here. So you see that even though I had blue on top of the, let me see if you guys can see here. It's my coconut tree here, my palm tree. Even though I had it on top, the blue on top of it, I just painted over. But once you put the brown, that brown with a little bit of black, that is the stronger color. So you can, if you know you're going to use a color that is the strongest color than what you painted before, you'll be good to go. Like, you won't have to worry about not showing. You will show. And that's just for us to have a visual here of what this is going to look like. Anyways, I will put a picture later of what this, once I do all the painting on her body, the flappers and the feet and the head is gonna have, she's gonna look like a turtle. It's just her shell. It is a little beach scene. So another thing I want to do here, let me see, with I have one of those fine tips tools that is really nice. This one from Diamond Core, these are one of my favorite tools from them for doing the real fine carving. Is a FP1 and a FP2, so the FP is for fine point. Let's see if you guys have a question. You can go to Kiwi's site. Yeah, you can. Thanks, Diana. Go back here again. Anyways, these fine point tools, either one of these, they're really nice for finishing work. Remember I was telling you you can do that pattern on the flappers like the skin of a turtle using this graffito tool. Well, you can also use this because it has like a 1 millimeter, let's see, tip. So you can certainly go like this. I moved my flapper here, but you can do, you know how it has like those kind of like circles? That's what you can use for this. Also for this graffito, I wanted to do like the, for the palm tree, you know, you can do the, kind of like those wispy leaves, kind of falling here. And then I'll paint them again in green. But rather than having the little coils, all I did is I have the little coils to make the main stem of the palm tree. Let's see if maybe like that you guys can see right there. And then you can make it look like it's almost making like a little silhouette of the leaves here. So I go part of it, I go over the coils that I made, and then I pull it down. But you see how it is really thin, so this tool is great for fine details. So I do spend a lot more time than what I'm showing you guys here. But sometimes doing the live, it's really hard to show everything. It would take me forever to show all the little details that I add. Same thing when I show you guys when I make the chameleons, which we're gonna be doing here on my workshop. That's gonna take us all day because all the details, we do the skin of the chameleon, and then we do all the branches with the leaves where we attach. So all that takes time. And then you can do some markings like that for the tree. And you can even do some carving here for the water, kind of curve. You see, as it dries, then it just comes right off. That's why I said it's important to know when to do the carving, when to do the sculpting, when to do the altering. You know, everything, there is a stage, the right stage of the clay to do it. So, but I think you guys got an idea of what she's gonna look like. So I think that's it. What do you guys think of my crazy idea of the sunrise turtle? I think she'll be cute. So I thought using the turtle as a canvas to show a scene, so you can do like maybe waves, maybe draw some flowers on it. And then once you attach, the background could just be like a beach glaze combination. I'm into blues and greens, although I do also like pinks because of Sarah Walton. She taught me how to like pinks now. But I've always been a blue and green person. I love it. So anyways, I love the beach colors, the Caribbean ocean. So that's what I'm thinking here, even though I'm only gonna apply clear. I use HF9, Emaco HF9 clear on the turtle, and then let the background be just, you know, just a nice glaze combination with blues and greens. So that's it. Thanks for being here, guys. This was just, as I said on the beginning, kind of like an idea that came to my mind. I was gonna make a bird today, since I have several birds, frogs, and chameleons in my damp box. I'm keeping them in there. My husband said that they look like dead animals all in there, locked in my damp box. But let me know if you guys want to see, since I think for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be doing a lot of sculpting. Let me know what you want to see. If you want to see birds, how I make them and how I attach. I thought about making a bird bath and putting the birds in it. So I have several ideas in mind. So let me know what you want to see. Thank you for being here with me, and hopefully I'll see you next Saturday. Bye bye, everyone. Thanks.